first let me introduce myself, and thank you all for coming. I know you all got emails from me, so I thank you for answering them. I'm Byrony Seifert. I'm the VP of Marketing for EMEA. I think all the speakers that came today, I talked to all of them about their presentations. They all did such a fabulous job, and we're so on point because everything I was going to talk about today, I'm pretty sure they covered everything. I was telling Matt, I was like, I think I have a few data points, but everything else has really been talked about, so maybe I'll just wrap it up, a little faster. Today I kind of want to come back to the buyer journey, right? This is something that we've had as a theme throughout the entire day. And I think that, talking about content marketing and the importance of it for, extending our brand, making sure your message is there for the research journey. We talked about ABM and account alignment, one-to-one or one-to-many. We just heard, how understanding marketing nuances and research intent can actually drive your message better. To finish off today's presentation, I like to come back to this buyer journey because it's always important to know that when you're talking about, intent driven data based response, it actually relates a lot to gaining, your best email marketing response as well, right? We drive a lot of SEO and we have a very large Google story, but we know that also that response comes a lot from us pushing our message forward to the right individuals at the right time, messaging the right information. And so I just want to come back today and talk a little about that and do some email marketing best practices for engagement. Overall, if we know the buyer journey as we're looking at it right now, and coming back to the digital transformation message that was so popular, I was watching like 50 phones went up to take pictures during that, Brian's presentation. We look at the buyer journey for a technology purchase, it's very complicated, right? It's not like a beautiful stream and a funnel of gloriousness. I wish it was, my job would be super easy. But we look at the buying time frame and how it shifts, right? So there is that buying time frame. Like I see it in all the massive amount of data that we have across our networks, and we're very privileged to sit in the middle between Google and what you guys are doing to see everything that correlates between there and be able to message appropriately. But we also know that there is a point in the journey where our messaging stops and your messaging begins, right? There's a huge crossover between the two. At that critical point when you're creating a short list or a vendor's creating a short list, your messaging, your material, and how you produce to them is really important, right? How you actually are using the intent-driven data is really critical to how actually you're going to get MQLs in your production post. So as we drive that engagement forward, today I just really wanted to talk a little bit about some of the recent testing we've done to help with that. I'll just quickly go over it so you know where I'm pulling this data from. We obviously drive a lot of demand, and I think some of the speakers today mentioning it, some of the information that we give them. Right, as you can see here, TechTarget drives 1.6 million leads online every year, but 420,000 of those are put through our European market, and I have a very small but very efficient team of 3 or 4 people that do this for you. One of them is here, so if you really want to know more about email marketing, Sarah can definitely talk to you about it. And that's a lot of engagement, right? That's a lot of email, that's a lot of analysis. To say that we are scrutinizing our email marketing is an understatement, to say the least. We do all of our email marketing on intent-driven data. We use all the material that we get from all of our users to actually push our message forward, and we are constantly evaluating new ways and tactics to do that better, right? At the end of the day, if we're doing it better, if we are lowering our email volume and increasing our response and decreasing our opt-out, we win, right? Because that's what we want. We always want to do better for our users and better for you for the response that we're giving you. So one of the things that we took a look at, this was late last summer, about August timeframe, August when normally we get a little bit of a relief to think as marketers, although last August was crazy. Last summer we took a look and we said, all right, what if we took a look and we thought, what would be the result of creating email cadence from intermediate activity timing, right? So let me put that another way. If we could evaluate the number of emails sent, not only on a daily fatigue, but actually rather on a daily fatigue based on the activity of that user relevant to time frame, how would that adjust our response rate? If we actually looked at response and we said that we were actually going to do it based on the activity intent of the user on relevant information, but also based on immediate time frame of such intent, how would our response increase, right? You see this all day in consumer activity, right? How does Netflix message you? How does Amazon message you? They're the kings of the immediate intent messaging. How does that get you to do more things, right? We all love a good Netflix binge, and it's coming on 5 seconds later. I might as well just keep watching it, right? It's the same concept in B2B, maybe a little few steps back, a little less exciting, but same concept of understanding. So we just took a step back and we said, okay, what if we increased the amount of email that we sent to users in the first 30 days of their immediate activity? And on the flip side, what if we decreased by 60% the email activity from the 30 to 90-day window, right? What if we ramped up and hit them really hard right away, tapered a bit to understanding of their response rate, and then decreased based on the 90-day window? What would happen, right? So our goal was, one, actually, based on the data that we had, we thought we could decrease our email volume by 55%. Well, that's always a win in my book, right? Less email is always better for us. But we thought that we could increase our conversion rate. If we're basing it on immediate activity, we could actually get better response from the immediate people engaging. And at the end of the day, what we hoped was less opt-outs, because that is a very struggle for us as a publisher as well, especially one that does so much email marketing. So the result was quite powerful. Not only did we decrease our email volume by the 55% we projected, we actually in the process increased our conversion rate by 43%, and more importantly, decreased our opt-out rate by 40% in EMEA. And you can see on the chart on the right, this is actual real opt-out engagement numbers related to lead projections year over year, January to 2018 to January 2019. You can see some of your smaller, more stagnant markets such as doc really responded to this, right? In the doc market, they are very related to what they want and when they want it, and they want it now, and then they don't care about you. We know this very well. They respond to immediacy and understanding and hyper email strategy very, very well. In the France market, actually, it was very much tapered, and that's very similar to our France market. It's actually a very low opt-out market for us overall. They like getting a lot of information at all times. But we did see a decrease in them as well as in the UK was actually really good for us as well. In addition to all of this, we actually saw a change in overall lead delivery. We increased it by 2%. We were hoping for an even pace, right? Because if I can decrease opt-outs and email and change my delivery overall, I'm doing extremely well in my world, right? So I can see that you're all thinking there, and you're like, this is great, Byrony, you're a publisher. How does this relate to me? Well, I take a look at this, and I take a step back, and I say, okay, I think there are 3 things that based on this data that you can understand and utilize immediately in your marketing strategy. I do a lot of nurturing reviews. I do a lot of email understanding for clients, week and week. I think I've done 10 different meetings, larger nurturing strategies in the last month. And the one thing that I think that you can use is to adopt intent-driven data for immediate follow-up. Now, I know when we talk about this, I'm going to get to this. I know you're not all marketing automation experts. I don't expect it. So I think that there are things such as buyer intent, inbound activity, persona. You can also use your lead gen tactics in order to funnel your email cadence to two different ways of looking at intent-driven data, right? There's one, is there a sales personalization programs, right? Your email cadence from sales actually is really important based on this data. And I loved Andy's answer. I work with Andy every day. He's amazing. But I loved his answer to you about the information, because I just wanted to like jump up and down and scream. I was like, yes, that's exactly it, right? Use your email cadence and social engagement to have a calling strategy for follow-up, right? It can come directly to your sales, to your SDRs for engagement. The other thing is, if you do have a marketing automation, your automated activity-based performance, you can take that buyer interest in your scoring and your follow-up for immediate engagement. Point 2, don't be afraid to push exposure in the immediate. I think every single person I talk to is like, yes. So we have a 4-email cadence, and we send 1 email a week, and then we stop. I'm like, okay. That's not gonna work, I'm sorry, right? These people are inundated, right? But I know email's hard. I know that sometimes you don't wanna push your message too hard because it can get to be too much. You wanna go beyond 1 email a week, right? This data proves to me, and it should prove to you, that pushing the engagement in the very immediate can get you that response, and then you can taper yourself off, yet send less email. It can happen, all right? If you're understanding how you're messaging better related to the immediacy of users and using that intent-driven model, it's going to be better for you. And 3, capitalize on the engagement, right? There are several things you can do that don't involve email to actually use for capitalization on the immediacy, right? One, something that comes with our intent data, but also others, is use engagement from other vendors as a boost. If they're engaging with your competitive set, why not use that as a scoring boost? Them downloading something from Cisco instead of, HPE, for instance, why is that not a better engagement for pushing your messaging and calling them to have a good discussion with them for your SDRs? How does that not push your message forward? Email generated a click, redirect to a landing page, get them to immediately re-engage themselves. We actually do this in our email testing as well. We see about 20-25% of our, depending on the region, of our leads and re-engagement actually come from people just getting on a landing page and re-engaging themselves, because they've already clicked, they've already engaged. They're going to get to someplace and they're going to actually re-engage themselves and download additional content. And third, finally, if available, adopt a trigger-based email strategy. I understand that this is more complicated for those in marketing automation, but 24-hour re-engagement is the best thing you can do, right? If they engage with you, don't be afraid to keep messaging them to have response. Where's Lizette? I actually also work on a one-click engagement strategy. I also am one of the lucky ones, I know this. But that call goes out within 24 hours, right? My information set is immediate. And that's part of the process that we actually set up between the systems, was to be immediate. Because we know that if they're engaged and they remember what they engaged with, it's actually better for you in the long run to get them to understand where you're coming from and to have a better conversation with them. So I thank you so much. Thank you.